Japan's Abe administration carried out a major cabinet reshuffle last week, replacing 17 of 19 cabinet ministers. Most of the posts were filled with his far-right political allies, sparking controversy and opposition from the other side of Japan's political aisle. Amid concerns that Abe looks set to forge ahead with his hardline policies against South Korea, today we go in-depth on how the shakeup would affect future Seoul-Tokyo relations with Dr. Kim Sang-woo, chairman of the East Asia Cultural Project. Welcome to the program.
It's good to be back.
So Abe's reshuffled team of ministers is widely referred to as anti-Seoul cabinet here in the nation, as most of the posts were filled with far-right hardliners known for their stance against South Korea. How did you see the shakeup?
Well, despite the criticism of the reshuffle being a revolving door cabinet or a fraternity league of friends appointment, Abe made sure that he had in position within the cabinet and in the party people that he could entrust to push through his main agenda, which is the constitutional amendment, by the end of his term in 2021. The other reason for his reshuffle or major reshuffle is that he has been a prime minister for a very long term, and there is discontent within the party for his long-term prime ministership. So therefore, in order to appease these discontent, he had given cabinet posts to the various political factions within the party. And I think that's one of the reasons why the major reshuffle took place. One of the persons that we have to also consider is the new Minister for Environment is Shinjo Koizumi, who is the son of Prime Minister Koizumi. He actually was on the other side in the contest for the party leadership position. And despite the fact that he opposed Abe, Prime Minister Abe still appointed him as a new Minister for Environment. And one of the reasons for that is that Shinjo, the young Koizumi is like an idol, pop star kind of a person in politics. He's young, handsome, massively popular. So he wanted him to be in the forefront to push through the constitutional amendment. And with his popularity, he figured that the rejection against constitutional amendment will be reduced by his popularity.
So Koizumi is one of the notable newly appointed ministers. Are there any other ministers that we need to pay extra attention to?
Well, for us, which directly affects the bilateral relations, of course, is the new foreign minister, who is Toshimitsu Motegi, foreign minister, sorry, who used to be the principal vice chair for the parliamentary affairs in the LDP. He is one who rejects the Kono statement because it acknowledges sex slaves within the statement. He has a very hard line and very revisionist in his own right, and he will probably be someone who will deal with us in a very harsh way. Motegi is actually the former Minister for Economic Revival. I'm sorry, I was wrong. He actually negotiated the bilateral trade agreement with the US. And President Trump termed him as a hard, tough negotiator. So that's Motegi. The one I was mentioning, the principal, is the new actual Minister for Economy and Industry, Itsu
Sugawara?
Sugawara, yes. He is the one who rejects the Kono statement. And he has been a member of the constitutional reform group within the parliament as well. The other one, of course, is who has been criticized for his diplomatic improprieties when he was foreign minister. Taro has now moved to become defense minister, which is also an indication of Prime Minister Abe that he is going to pursue the same line. And of course, the new education minister is Hagiuda. Is also someone, Koichi Hagiuda is someone that we have to, because he has been the one who has been pressuring publishers to amend it, the textbooks for the contents of having Nanjing massacre or the sex slaves of forcefully abducted. And so he is someone who will have great confrontations when he is as he Minister of Education, because on the textbook issue as well as Tokdo. So these are the people that will have direct effect on our bilateral relations, and it is not a very forward-looking situation.
So it sounds like a team that may bring a lot more controversies and Seoul-Tokyo conflicts ahead. Now, following the shakeup, Prime Minister Abe has said no changes have been made with regards to Seoul-Tokyo relations after the shakeup, and newly appointed Minister of Economy and Trade, Ishu Sugawara, has echoed Abe's claims that Tokyo will not budge an inch from the current stance. How do you expect Seoul-Tokyo relations to play out after this new, after this shakeup?
We have to understand Prime Minister Abe's mindset. I mean, due to his heritage, I suppose he has always been a revisionist. His grandfather, Prime Minister Kishi, is the great influencer in Prime Minister Abe's life. He actually started politics because of his grandfather. And when he first became a parliamentarian, in his address to the Parliament, his remark was that he became a politician in order to change the constitution to an independent constitution and to do away with the forced upon constitution by the US. So this has been his main objective since day one. When he was growing up under the influence of his grandfather, he has always been thinking of this. And in a way, the Korean Peninsula has always been a means for the ascendance of politician Abe. When he was a third-term parliamentarian, due to the fact that the new prime minister in 2001 it was Koizumi, he was Prime Minister Abe's father's close aide and member of his faction. So Prime Minister Koizumi appointed Abe to become deputy cabinet minister, and the following year in 2002 took him to North Korea when they had the summit, and he was appointed to be in charge of the Japanese abduction issue. And he became very popular through that because he took a very strong position against North Korea. So his popularity grew with the hard stance towards North Korea. In a way, he has gained his popularity as a politician and eventually became prime minister in 2006 due to North Korea. And now, in the case of South Korea, it's a different scenario because we now see that South Korea has President Moon administration is taking a very reconciliatory attitude towards North Korea and negotiating denuclearization, which Prime Minister Abe has always believed that North Korea would not denuclearize. And so he always took a very strong position against North Korea, maximum pressure, sanctions. And this was a position against. Now the situation has changed because not only the Moon administration is reconciliatory towards North Korea, but even President Trump is trying to broker a deal with North Korea. So the position of Prime Minister Abe and Japan has become a bit ambiguous in a sense. So now there is two choices for Prime Minister Abe, which is one is to embrace North Korea, because the fear that the realistic nuclear North Korea, and the threat of nuclear warheads and missiles striking Japan is a nightmare. It brings up 1945 Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So he wants very much not to be a target of North Korea. In order to do that, he has to distance himself from South Korea. That's an irony, but it's the fact. So in a way, the dispute we're having is in this transitional period where Prime Minister Abe is trying to make a selection. And the last year's Supreme Court ruling for the forced labor compensation has been the turning point. I suppose you could say the crux of it. So this kind of trade retaliation has never been done before since the establishment of relationship between the two countries in 1965. This is the first time ever that historical issues turned into economic disputes. And now this also has been heightened by President Moon by terminating GSOMIA. So therefore now it's a security issue. So the situation is just escalating to a point where we do not know where the end is.
Now, President Moon is slated to visit New York at the end of this month for the UN General Assembly, and so is Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. What are the chances of the two leaders sitting down for talks?
At the moment, none whatsoever. Because the two positions are it's very difficult for either side to back down. Because although President Moon wants to find a resolution of the situation, but he cannot be seen as surrendering or backing down and accepting what Prime Minister Abe has been asking for. So he needs to be seen as compromising, of course, to trying to find this resolution, but not in a way that it looks like a surrender. So I think the possibility of a beginning of a dialogue in the United Nations is only through the United Nations mediation. After the termination or the announcement of the termination of GSOMIA, I think the U.S. is taking this very seriously because the security alliance of the Trilateral Security Alliance is the most important strategic and security base for the United States in Northeast Asia. So if this is disrupted, then the U.S. foundation is going to be disrupted as well. So I think the U.S. will try to push through a dialogue. Maybe the foreign ministers attending the United Nations Assembly will be the ones who will actually start a dialogue there. But once again, if either side continues to just state their positions, then there will be no dialogue. It will just be stating their demands. So there will be no progress. But I think there may be a US-initiated dialogue to begin because it's getting out of hand. And once we reach a position of no return, then it's going to be very difficult to come back.
We are running a bit out of time, so one last question just very quickly. Do you expect further retaliatory measures from Japan?
I think at the moment Japan is managing the situation and watching. But I think towards the end of the year, maybe October or November, when the South Korean court approves the forcible sales of the assets of Nippon Steel, then I think the retaliation can take place.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kim, for your insights tonight.
My pleasure.